What about tracking learning outcome? Again, we've been talking about so many different ways learning is being administered. How are we measuring ROI on our learning programs? Are we finding that we need to use measures other than the usual, or are we using some of the traditional methods of tracking learning outcome and learning success?
I mean, I certainly think we start with the usual stuff. So the participation rates and things along those lines. I mean, that's kind of the basics. It's an initial measure that you can at least see, kind of get some traction from a project management perspective as to how things are progressing. And but ultimately, what you want to track is the performance pull-through. And so we're looking at our more behavioral metrics and how is behavior changing. So again, I'll go back to the career conversations, workshops we're providing at the manager and the employee level. Obviously, we're tracking the numbers of workshops and the people that are participating in those programs, but ultimately the deliverable is the career conversation or the career development conversation between the manager and the employee. That's the behavior we're trying to impact. And ultimately, by having that conversation, the employee feels empowered, they have a plan, they see a vision of how their career is going to develop over the next 12 to 24 to 36 months, depending on the initiatives that are out there. They talk about the work and the projects and the assignments that they're not only doing now, but really the stretch assignments and the future assignments that might be available to them, and or the matrix type of roles, so the cross-functional work that they might be doing within the organization. So it's those conversations that we're looking to measure. And one of the ways to get at that, because obviously it's a conversation, so how do you observe that? At the end of the year, we'll go back to our Volter's Voice survey. We do have our engagement index. We ask some questions around those conversations, around whether that conversation occurred. But we'll also be asking directly to the employee, did you have a career conversation with your manager? And we'll be asking the manager the same question, did you have a career conversation with your employee? And then we'll look at the delta, and that's going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to those metrics coming up in the next probably 3 or 4 months as we go through.
Well, I don't have to look forward to those metrics.
In PwC, we actually have a global people survey, and part of that there's an engagement index component of that, and we measure ourselves against being a great place to work. Being top 100 on that list and constantly competing on that list is something that drives us. But a significant question in there is around the learning and development. And so it is part of our measurement at that level. So that's a very high level, macro level that says at an organizational level, how do I want to do this? We also actually track retention. And so how are we retaining our employees? Are we retaining them longer? So for turnover level, and we have a natural turnover level, but are we keeping employees long enough? Because the economics associated with that are dramatic. When you think in our world, when someone is there for 3 or 4 years and then exits, on average, we're looking at an investment in that individual of over $100,000, and every time they walk out the door, you lose that. So if we can keep them and keep them longer, that has a beneficial impact. So we look at what we're doing and the relevance of learning to retention. We look at our exit surveys quite a bit, and we're very active in understanding if people are leaving, why and what's influencing that, and if there's anything in that relates to their development. That's at a sort of the macro level. At an individual level, we look at we do this study work to understand, is this relevant, is it having an impact, and that's been very helpful. That data has been very helpful in allowing us to present to management that says, based upon this data, this is the value proposition associated with this, which actually is giving me the ability to do more experimentation and actually to expand, and actually in some cases has increased the amount of my spend, because management's confidence that what we're spending is actually having a return. So for an example, we have a leadership program that we do for first-year senior associates, which is people 3 to 4 years with the firm, and it's leadership-based, and it's a very simple premise. How do I expand one's capability and capacity to make an effective choice? right? Because part of leadership, managing oneself, is a starting point for us in that context. Based upon the measurement we do, it's a very expensive program, a very high-end experiential design, but based upon the measurement that we do around that program, it actually has a 25% return to the organization, and we've been able to improve that. So when you think about the traditional measures on how you look at programmatic return on investment, it's still very relevant today and very valuable for organizations, especially when you start to link those things to saying, these are the investments that I need to make in order to be able to advance the brand and help the CEO understand the nature of that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think when you look at ROI, you're more looking at a macro level and seeing the impact that you're making in the organization as a whole. When you try to look at program by program, it's very hard to really do a deep ROI analysis, isolate all the variables, and really tie your learning results to your learning experience to the business results. I think another metric that is very important is return on expectations, right? And you contracted with a sponsor to develop a solution, and have you done that? Have you delivered? Are you measuring at least up to Kirkpatrick level 3 and ensuring that people are applying and that behavior was changed? So going that back and forth with the sponsors and with the participants and just understanding that you have made an impact, I think it's critical in addition to the macro type of metrics. And all of these are very useful when it's budget time, right? And you're looking to renew your budget for the year. You want some sort of proof that there is an ROI, that what you're making, what you're doing, it's making impact. So that's really critical.